Hello everyone, welcome to Achievers IAS classes. Let's begin our discussion on the current events of 29th December 2017. The first issue in news is regarding the draft Triple Talaq bill passed by the Lok Sabha. I have already discussed that the process of instant Triple Talaq is not in accordance with the provisions of the Quran, and recently the Supreme Court struck it down as illegal and unconstitutional, as well as it directed the central government to frame a law towards this effect. In response, the government drafted the Muslim Women Protection of Rights on Marriage Bill, which makes instant triple talaq a criminal offence applicable to the entire country except in the state of Jammu and Kashmir. For further details on the issue, please go back and watch my previous news analysis videos. With that, let's move on to the next issue in news, which is regarding the recent WHO decision to classify gaming disorder as a mental health condition. The World Health Organization, taking into account the growing number of youngsters and the prevalence of symptoms like depression and anxiety among gaming addicts, decided to classify it as a mental disorder. The major symptoms exhibited by those affected by gaming addiction are psychological and behavioral changes, physical health problems, and various other disorders like insomnia, sleep apnea, etc. Given the rising burden of lifestyle diseases across the world, this is seen as a positive move by various health experts, which is regarding the FAME India scheme. The FAME India scheme was formulated as part of the National Electric Mobility Mission Plan 2020 by the Ministry of Heavy Industries and Public Enterprises. As the name suggests, the scheme was targeted towards the faster adoption and manufacturing of hybrid and electric vehicles in India. The government had extended various incentives to the manufacturers of hybrid and electric vehicles. The scheme is to be implemented in phases according to the infrastructure development needed for greater adoption of these high-end technology vehicles. The issue is in news because phase 1 of FAME India scheme, which was up to 31st of March 2017, was extended up to 2018. With that, let's move on to the next issue in news today. The next issue in news is regarding the concerns expressed over export growth in the coming years. The news article is talking about various challenges, both external as well as domestic, which could act as a hindrance in India's efforts to increase its export growth. Some of these factors include the political instability in the Middle East, the rising levels of protectionism in Europe, which was evident in the Brexit vote, etc., on the external front. While the domestic factors include weak demand for labor intensive exports like leather products, garment, etc. This is also compounded by the fact that the GST refunds are delayed in many cases. We can recall that from our previous discussions, we saw how the central government, during its midterm review of the foreign trade policy, announced various incentives to the labor intensive segments to boost job creation and value addition. The government further has been actively engaging in various regional and bilateral trade negotiations for expanding the markets as well as increasing our access to raw materials. Also, there has been renewed emphasis on maintaining quality of exports and meeting the standards required by other countries. The various measures to further incentivize exports are expediting GST refunds on time, improving the logistics infrastructure in the economy, reducing the interest rates, and incentivizing small firms to take part in global exhibitions. With that, let's move on to the next issue in news, which is regarding the rising incidences of infiltration across the line of control in Jammu and Kashmir. According to the data available with the Home Ministry, the number of infiltrations stand at a 4-year high, and there has been a 230% increase in ceasefire violations along the line of control. We saw in yesterday's news analysis the cross-border raid conducted by the Indian Army in response to the killing of 4 Indian Army Jawans. Given the deterioration in the bilateral relations between India and Pakistan, this is a worrisome development, and we have to remain vigilant to safeguard our security interests. With that, let's move on to the next issue. The next issue in news is regarding the ballistic missile defense system of India. The issue is in news because India has successfully test fired the advanced air defense interceptor missile, which is capable of destroying enemy ballistic missiles in the Indo-atmosphere, that is at altitudes of 15 to 30 km. What is important to us from the examination point of view is the ballistic missile defense system of India consists of two interceptor missiles, namely the Prithvi defense vehicle for exo-atmospheric ranges and the recently tested advanced air defense missile for endo-atmosphere or lower altitudes. With that, let's move on to the next issue in news today, which is regarding the recent comments made by China on the China-Pakistan economic corridor. China has recently said that no country should exercise its influence to undermine the China-Pakistan corridor. This remark is seen to be indirectly aimed at India, India's opposition to the project as it passes through Pakistan-occupied Kashmir. The remarks come in the backdrop of Afghanistan expressing its desire to integrate into the China-Pakistan economic corridor, and China has taken various steps like mediation between Pakistan and Afghanistan, including various interactions between the clerics of the two countries to prevent the spread of religious extremism in the region. We'll follow this issue closely as it evolves in the days to come. Till then, let's move on to the next issue in news.